If you're getting wrong answers when solving problems involving parallel and perpendicular slopes, try asking yourself these questions. Am I finding the correct slope? That is, are you actually finding the slope that you're being asked to find, or are you accidentally mixing up parallel and perpendicular? And am I calculating slope correctly? That is, if the question actually requires you to calculate a slope, are you doing so correctly? To see how these problems can come up, take a look at this example. Here we're given the graph of a straight line, and we're asked to determine the slope of all perpendicular lines. To do so, we'd usually start by finding the slope of the line that we're given. And we can do that using a graph here. We just need to find 2 points on the line for which we can easily read the values. So I'll use that one there and that one there. And then we need to find the corresponding rise and run. So it looks like we rise 2 squares and we run 3 squares, but beware, the rise is not actually 2 and the run is not actually 3, because we need to pay attention to the scales being used on our axes here. Notice that on the vertical scale, each square actually represents 10. So our rise of 2 squares is actually a rise of 20. Similarly, on the horizontal scale, each square represents 2. So our run of 3 squares is actually a run of 6. And that gives us a slope of rise over run, which is 20 over 6. And we can reduce that fraction by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2 to get a slope of 10/3. So watch out for the scales there. Make sure that you're paying attention to the scale on each axis when you find your slope. Furthermore, if you're using the slope formula to find the slope, make sure that you're consistent with your labeling of points. That is, if you call this point 1 and this point 2, make sure that you're taking x1 and y1 from this point, and x2 and y2 from this point. Okay, moving on. We need to find the slope of all perpendicular lines. So watch out there. Make note that we are looking for perpendicular lines, not parallel. And how do we do that? Well, there's really 2 steps with finding the slope for perpendicular lines, and we need to remember to do both of those. We need the negative reciprocal. So 2 things. We need to take the negative, that is, we need to change the sign, and we need to take the reciprocal of this slope. So we could say perpendicular slope is, well, 10/3 is positive, so we need to make sure we change the sign, so negative, and we need to interchange the rise and the run. That is, we need to flip our fraction, so we get 3/10. So remember to do both of those things. So always double check your scales, make sure you're consistent with your point labeling if you're using the slope formula, and always double check that you've found the correct slope. Here we were asked to find the perpendicular line slope, not the parallel, so we need to make sure that we are taking the negative reciprocal of our line's slope. And I hope that helps.